Hello, I'm Richard Gisbert, and you're watching a special edition of The Listening Post. This week, we're going to take a look at the stories and personalities that dominated the global news media in 2008 and ask, which politician got twice as much coverage as Madonna? How many years, yes years, would it take you to watch all of the U.S. election coverage in just one go?
Change has come to America.
Plus, a year-end encore for the most popular viral videos of 2008.
Yes, we can.
As usual here at The Listening Post, we're looking at what the coverage says about the global news media. We're doing it with the help of Canadian media analysts Influence Communications. Every year, Influence looks at the output of the global news media, more than 1 billion TV news items from 160 countries, and works out which stories got the most attention. We'll use their study to try to make sense of what the world is watching and what it means. So here we go with our countdown of 2008's top news stories. This is no beauty contest. At the bottom of the list, there is turmoil. In one case, caused by powerful natural forces, and in the other, man-made turmoil brought about by political unrest. At number 15, the earthquake that devastated Western China in May. China has seen natural disasters before, but what set the Sichuan earthquake story apart was the unprecedented openness that the Chinese government showed to the media.
We've been watching the coverage of the rescue effort all week long, and so have the Chinese on their own airwaves, and that has become part of this story.
The Chinese coverage has been absolute blanket coverage on nearly every single channel in China.
The Beijing Olympics were just months away, and all eyes were on China. The government used the media to show its compassionate side. The reality check came in the form of the melamine milk scandal just before the Olympics.
Censorship of the news of the poison baby formula was censored throughout this time at the insistence of Sanlu, the major milk-producing company in China. It's literally an example of how a free flow of information in China can be a matter of life and death.
Sky News is banned from Zimbabwe.
The BBC is banned from Zimbabwe.
Number 14, Zimbabwe's political and economic troubles, and Robert Mugabe's testy relationship with the media, particularly the British media.
What want the British to do with Zimbabwe? Who are you? You bloody idiots.
Robert Mugabe has state-funded radio and television under his control. He tolerates very little media dissent from the newspapers and has forced many a Zimbabwean journalist into exile. Most of the world concluded Mugabe lost the election, but he still clings to power and still controls what most Zimbabweans watch and read.
I think the media is still very powerful, the most powerful tool perhaps of change on this continent, but in Zimbabwe it's been suppressed for so long it's going to be very difficult for them to get out of that, and not under this current regime. In 2007, Iran and its nuclear program was the third biggest news story of the year. In 2008, it was down to number 13. Is this a case of less news being good news for Iranians? In 2008, the U.S. media spotlight moved away from the Bush administration's views on Iran to those of the two American presidential candidates. For the media, it was a war of words. What had Barack Obama meant when he said he'd talk to Tehran without preconditions?
The notion that somehow not talking to countries is punishment to them, which has been the guiding diplomatic principle of this administration, is ridiculous.
What did Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad mean when he sent a letter of congratulations to President-elect Obama?
Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has urged U.S. President-elect Barack Obama to deliver on his promise of change. He said the nations across the globe want an end to the policies of warmongering, occupation, deception, and discrimination.
Will the Iran story move back up the global news agenda again in 2009? Almost certainly. Will the way the media report the story change? Probably not.
Ahmadinejad denies the Holocaust, wants to wipe Israel off the map, is seeking nuclear weapons. I think we need to take him out.
2008 was a big year for sports. Before the Beijing Olympics got started, football was making its presence felt in the media. The European Football Championships occurred on just one continent, but they were still the 12th biggest news story of the year. And Euro 2008 was all about the money, not just how much they made, but how much they spent. Terrorism, international conflicts, and demands for freedom. All three of those themes cropped up time and time again in the news agenda for 2008. And the stories from numbers 11 through 8 reflect that.
The Israel-Palestine story comes in at number 11. 2008 marked the 60th anniversary of the creation of the Jewish state.
The Israeli media is dealing in this anniversary like in any other before. There is only one narrative, the Zionistic Jewish one.
In Palestine and in the Arab media, Israel's Independence Day is known as Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. In the United States, the coverage tilted Israel's way, with journalists setting aside any pretense of objectivity to wish the country a happy birthday.
I feel at home in Israel and have nothing but joy and goodwill and shalom to wish to this great and gutsy country on its 60th anniversary.
The U.S. media on Israel's 60th anniversary was one-sided and has viewed it totally from an Israeli lens. If anything, U.S. media was more pro-Israeli than the Israeli media.
At number 10, Pakistan. The country has been on edge ever since the assassination of Benazir Bhutto late in 2007, and Pakistan's political and security troubles continued to attract international coverage. The Pakistani media happily saw off their former ally, President Musharraf, the one-time media reformer, who in the last 2 years of his rule became one of the media's most forceful suppressors.
He clamped down on the media and took many of these channels that were very critical of him for the imposition of the emergency off of the air as well. So what he gave with one hand, he took away with the other.
Now the media is here to stay. We cannot go back. The days of overt suppression are over.
Musharraf is gone. However, the media that he helped create, all those news channels, live on. The conflict over South Ossetia is at number 9. For Russia and Georgia, this war was fought on the air,
Russia defying U.S. demands for an immediate ceasefire,
as much as it was on the battlefield. The president of Georgia, Mikhail Saakashvili, used his telegenic looks and fluency in English to gain the upper hand in the media war.
He's a great media manager because he speaks very good English. He was educated in the United States. He has contacts in the American media. And of course, he has the support of the U.S. government, which means that he has the support of a great section of the U.S. media. So there's an agenda going on here. And of course, the Russians haven't really got a good PR section.
Russia's Prime Minister Vladimir Putin called Georgia's actions genocide.
Number 8 on the list is Tibet. Images of protests that took place in the capital, Lhasa, in March were beamed around the world, putting China's human rights record and Tibet in the media spotlight. Tibet was also a running theme during the circus surrounding the Olympic torch relay. Wherever protesters confronted the torch, Tibet and China's record there came up in the coverage.
There is no human rights, so they are destroying our country, our culture, our religion, and everything.
The torch relay and the Tibet issue became a propaganda battle.
Looking through the data for 2008's global news coverage, what's striking compared with 2007 is the approach to reporting celebrity. Last year, Paris Hilton was the most covered individual on the planet, ahead of the Pope. This year, she's been replaced, and not by another celeb, but by a politician.
Comment allez-vous? Bien?
Nicolas Sarkozy, the French president, displaced Paris Hilton as the most covered person in global media. But does the politician's rise to the top of the coverage rankings suggest that celebrity journalism is on the wane? No, because the bulk of Sarkozy's stories weren't about his policies.
When we're talking about Nicolas Sarkozy, we're talking about Carla Bruni, his ex-wife, his personal life, his the glamour aspect of his personality. That's why he got that level of coverage.
Nicolas Sarkozy, the president who hooked up with a supermodel and rode the marriage of politics and celebrity to the top of the coverage heap.
Roughly halfway through our story countdown for 2008, two news stalwarts are rearing their heads, doom and gloom. Reporting on nature and natural resources are at numbers 7 and 6 on our countdown.
Gasoline prices continue to rise.
What goes up won't come. Oil prices took a wild ride in 2008, moving past $100 a barrel in January, peaking at $147 in June. Then oil slumped back down to $40 a barrel in early December, the lowest price in 4 years. Burning oil and other fossil fuels contributes to global warming, and climate change is number 6 on the news countdown. Last year, climate change didn't even make the top 15.
10 down, 5 to go. We're back after the break with the top 5 most covered news stories of 2008. We'll also be taking another look at our favorite viral videos of the year.